Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Club Bruges 1, Aston Villa 3. On the second time of asking, we finally got a win away against Club Bruges. How you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. I'm not too bad. Hey, should we get it out of the way? Should we address the elephant in the room? Should you and I eat our serving of humble pie?
So,
Tyrone Mings, I think both of us said after the first Bruges game, we can't imagine him playing for Villa in a meaningful context ever again. It's quite the turnaround from him that, in 10, 15 years' time, when you and I are sat on our deck, sipping from an ice cold beer, talking about Bruges away, in a Villa's memorable run to the Champions League final in 2025. And when we mention Tyrone Mings' name in the context of this fixture, the first thought will be of his quite incredible goal line clearance, his assist for the first goal, and not his climacus error away in the group stages. Quite the recovery from him to do something even more ridiculous than he did in the first leg, but he somehow managed it. And so, yes, because Tyrone is inevitably an avid listener of the Villa Filler podcast, just wanted to air out the dirty laundry first and foremost, because, yeah, absolutely incredible. He was amazing. Thought Villa were very, very, let's say very, very resilient, very resilient. We hung on in there and overcame some of our biggest flaws, namely our inability to keep out an opponent's first shot on target to come away with what is a massive, massive win.
did Tyrone touch it? I've said it so many times and I don't know. I
I,
can't say for sure.
for the sake of my narrative, yes,
Yeah.
because I like my football laden in storyline. I'm going to say that he absolutely did.
I'll take it. I'll take it. There has to be like a stupid VAR camera angle, like one where they used to draw the lines that shows us like definitively the touch that Tyrone gets. But he clearly did enough. He clearly did enough to stop what looked like an absolute destined goal from going in. So hats off to Tyrone. But you're right, mate. You're right. This was very much. I actually think that this 90 minutes of football is the perfect representation of where we've been for the past sort of 6 weeks. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't. It wasn't easy. The frustrating moments for sure, and as you alluded to, mate, conceding again from your first shot on target. But we managed to dig in. A few things did go our way, which it feels like, maybe that hasn't happened enough this season. And here we are. We are the 3-1 victors, and it's hard to complain. It is hard to complain. It wasn't the best performance. It certainly it certainly won't be the performance that we'll be sitting on our deck talking about, mate, sipping a cold one, but it will be the result. And that is the only thing that matters because we're on such a strong footing, taking this back to Villa Park now with a 2-goal lead. Um, Leon Bailey as well, man. Like, I think I was a bit quick to tweet because I think he could have probably tracked his runner a little bit better for the goal that we ended up conceding. However, this is the start. This is the annual Leon Bailey remontonda, and it was like seeing Bailey of 18 months 2 years ago again. And I'm just absolutely buzzing, mate. And I hope that that's, you know, it's enough to kind of spur him on, and we're going to get more of this, more goals, more all action Bailey.
Mate, it was so good to see. So good to see. His only his second goal of the season, which is um pretty how we're trying to put it is, yeah, it's not great. I don't want to go, we try and keep things nice and light on this podcast, but yeah, that's pretty damning considering he's not been short of minutes. And until the January window, we were really, really light in the wide positions. And so for Leon to have only hit the target once before today is pretty incredible, but took it as if he'd scored like 10. It
Yeah.
was like, it's so easy. Like on the way, he just slotted it into the bottom corner. Really, really nice. And To be fair to Leon, one thing I will say is that I've found his to use like a golfism, like his approach play, really, really encouraging. I think over the last kind of 5 or 10 games, he looks confident in taking on a man, which has not always been the case with Leon Bailey when he's short of goals. Normally, once you start to see his confidence go in front of goal, that then you start to see his confidence regress as he gets closer to the goal. And that, like, when he's squaring up a fullback, with both remontonda, sometimes he can look a little bit unsure of what to do. The ball can get stuck under his feet. He can just pass it back to the fullback. Whereas I think he's been very encouraging, very willing to take players on. He's fashioned some good chances in the last few games. And so I was happy to see him get that goal because I do think he's deserved it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And while we're giving Leon Bailey his flowers again, it's that time, guys. Austin McPhee set piece. It went well. We have to acknowledge that, and Tyrone's involvement in that, as you mentioned at the start, mate, as well. Wonderful little flick on, and yeah, I think what has me the most excited about this goal is it was so instinctual. Leon had almost no time to think and or react. Did exactly what he needed to do. Killed it straight away, and it's one of them where if the ball fell to him and he kind of dilly-dallied and tried to do a little step over like Leon normally does, and it still went in. Obviously, I'd still be buzzing, but it's one of them where you're like, oh, okay, Leon's getting there. It feels like Leon's there now, and we've obviously been saying this for weeks, so absolutely buzzing with that one. I'm sick to death about talking about conceding from the first shot on target, mate. I am sick to bloody death, and
Yeah,
so much so that we're not even going to talk about it. That's the extent that we're going to talk about, really, mate. I'm absolutely fed up. But I think the reaction after this was again encouraging because we didn't look too faded, and in fairness, Bruges did keep growing into this game, but we managed to sort of weather the storm, go into halftime at 1-1, which gave us the platform to go and do what we did in that final 10 minutes, which really is where Villa did come alive. Maybe the final 10 is a bit too precise, but when we made that quadruple sub, things changed for Villa.
they really, really did. They really, really did. We weren't great today, but let's have it right. The scoreline very much flatters Villa. We've kind of had a win and a considerable win almost handed to us really with an own goal and then a kind of ridiculous penalty decision. And Club Brugge did have their fair share of chances, particularly in the last 10 minutes, but that one that Solis puts over the bar, and then there's a cutback for Berakan. I can't remember who it is, and that kind of skies it over. But they played some really, really nice football, Club Brugge, and I think they'll all be kind of sat there, fans and players alike, tonight, wondering how on earth they've gone from taking a draw to Villa Park to all of a sudden they've got this kind of mountain to overcome. And as you say, mate, not to touch on it again, but given our record of conceding with our first shot on target, given that that has happened far more often than it has not in games, I don't think it's a ridiculous assumption to say that it could also happen in the home leg. And then all of a sudden, if it was only 2-1, you're back level and things can get jittery really, really quickly. So having that extra goal is real comfort for us. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right in saying we did weather the storm and we did show decent promise, having gone a goal down, to kind of keep solid and ensure that it didn't become 2 or 3 or whatever. But that's only because we've had to do it so many bloody times this season. I think I referenced that, we've got, I think, the best record in the Premier League from coming behind, from losing positions this season. Yeah, obviously, we basically start every game with a handicap. We basically just go, here, we'll play from a goal down, off we go, because we have this ridiculous record attached to us. And so we're playing 95% of our matches a goal down. So to have the best record coming back from games is half of the course as far as I'm concerned. And so, but the Villa boys did do well. And those substitutes, and let's have it right, Marco Asensio particularly continues to change games. And, the one thing I will say is that I saw a quite incredible stat that he's now the all-time record goal scorer in the Champions League from coming off the bench. Just wanted to pause there because, for a dramatic spec, give that some clout. All-time scorer in the Champions League, say quietly, off the bench. Yeah, 10 of his 13 goals in the Champions League have come as a result of substitute appearance. And so this kind of super sub role is something that Marco Asensio has been playing for a lot of his career, it seems. And he's playing it so well. He's playing it so well compared to he pretty much come in and from the minute he first picked the ball, that very first roulette, announced himself as probably the best player in our team, if we're being honest. And yeah, whilst I don't think that today was necessarily a great performance, I do think that again, this now needs to be the momentum builder for Villa, considering the guys that we have coming back from injury. Booba's return, we all know how important that is. It looks like Power's back in the fold. Marco Asensio is playing brilliantly. I didn't think Marcus Rashford had his best game today, but he's looked so promising. All of the others, I don't think that's a cause for concern. I think with the guys that we have coming back from injury, and it is a cliche that they're going to feel like new signings, but Boubacar Kamara, both of us are on record calling him our best midfielder. And so for him to come back and really anchor that team, give that defense a base on which to build on. I thought it was interesting that we out another new look defense today with Disasi at right back. Whether that, I don't think Disasi had a bad game, but whether that's an experiment that I would go back to in the future, I don't know. I thought Cash did well when he came on, and whilst I can't give him too much credit for winning the penalty, Axel Disasi isn't in that situation. He's not as high in the box to win that penalty. So I do think you got to give Cash some credit there. So it was interesting to see us kind of experiment again. It looks like we kind of experimented with a 3-back in the second half as well once those subs came on. So it's clear that Unai is trying a lot of different pieces to find the system that works. And whilst I don't think we found that system today with the players that we have coming back, you're starting to see the building blocks for if we can maximise tonight, what should hopefully be a promising second half of the season.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And I think the thing is, like, having options is a luxury, and it's a luxury that we've not been afforded for a long time. And knock on wood, it can only get better as people come back from injuries. And the fact that you can swap Disasi for Cash, and it's not like for like, it totally changes the dynamics of the team and makes us more dynamic down that right hand side. With that being said, Cash probably should have put Villa ahead, like earlier on. He had the chance on the volley, skies it over near post. When ball's falling out of the sky, I'm getting flashbacks to Lil. And I'm like, he's gonna do it. Matty Cash is gonna save us in Europe again, and like I'm gonna be sat here eating my hat. But he comes on and he offers something different to what Disasi had. So, and the same could be said about all of the changes we made, really. When you look at bringing JJ on, in many ways, JJ and Rashford are quite similar in terms of like they just want to get the ball and run, but there's an efficiency to JJ when he comes on in these sort of cameos, and he's obviously sort of building up the match fitness, and we're hopefully going to see the best of JJ soon. They're really good options to bring off the bench. They're really good, and I think it just goes to show you actually how good the players were sort of individually at just getting the job done. That Lamar was the last sub, and it was for Ollie, and it was a bit of a time wasting sub because Lamar's been somebody who's been getting minutes, albeit sometimes through like necessity because we've been so thinly spread at times. But Lamar has comfortably been one of Villa's best players for the past 2 to 3 months. So I do think it speaks a lot to the performance of the guys who started the game that it took till virtually 90 minutes for Lamar to get on the pitch. And at the end of the day, mate, like the own goal, I mean, the second goal, Stan Collymore put it perfectly for me on Twitter. He basically said, like, none of this woke shit. Just put the ball in the box, see what happens. And the second goal is proof of that. With Leon out on that side, he likes to invert, come in on his left. We know he's that's like the role. McGinn will invert, but Morgan naturally being right-footed, although can play with both, hitting that early cross when the defender, Michelle, was on the back foot, didn't necessarily know where Ollie was trying to recede, get into position. It, it, it's a great goal. It's a great goal, and just mixing it up a little bit and not being as rigid, which is, definitely something that you and I have spoken about on this podcast a lot recently, mate. It kind of feels like we try and score the perfect goal. Morgs has received the ball, he's attacked space, he's hit an early cross, and Bruges have conceded a lone goal as a result of that. So I can only applaud the improvisation, I want to say, of Morgan Rogers in what was a crucial part of the game to give us the lead again.
He continues to amaze, really, and I'm hesitant to kind of like beat praise on him because it's more of the defender's mistake, but the endeavor and the strength that he shows, just like the sheer willpower to get down the byline or drive through a midfield sometimes and just make something happen, is so often the difference for us, really. And this is a player that never goes, never seems to really get much of a rest, that always gets fouled, that plays such a physical game at such a young age, and no matter the stage, always seems to shoulder the load. And one thing I think is so impressive with Morgan Rogers is that whilst I don't think he's consistently been great this season, I think he's actually grown and gotten better as the season's gone on. I think when he was making errors, kind of more towards the start of the season, it was because he looked overconfident, which is if you are going to see a player, the young player particularly, make mistakes, it's far better to be in that position. I actually think he was over dribbling. He was trying to he was trying the Hollywood pass. He was trying to make things happen when maybe they weren't on, when maybe it's best to keep them simple. And, no matter, considering how rapid he's come up, whether it's an England debut, whether it's a Champions League debut, whether it's the latter stages of the FA Cup, whether it's playing, towards the top end of the Premier League, it's all seems to be taken so naturally for him. And, he picked up the Man of the Match award tonight, and you can only credit it, really. He was fantastic. And I think he makes the second goal happen. Obviously, Cassie then wins the penalty. I did want to have a conversation with you about this, mate. Obviously, loved that Marco stepped up, but Ollie Watkins seems to be in a real funk right now. I didn't think that he had a great game, and like, I'm not going to pick holes in this performance. I do still maintain that you want to see your striker pick the ball up in that situation, and I am really, really nitpicking there. But I was like, if he takes up, and I know that he doesn't have the best penalty record. I know it's a real kind of coin flip. That's that if he scores it, it could be so much for his confidence. If he misses it, and it God knows where it put him. And he obviously first that penalty against Celtic, a couple of months ago, and so and I know that his penalty record isn't great. I did think that when he sees that penalty handed over to Marco Asensio, is whether obviously missing the penalty is far more significant, but that again must be a knock on his confidence, because he must know that and he's never been a penalty taker, and that's where his numbers could look even more incredible if he was a penalty taker. And I am surprised that someone who is such a good goal getter, that is often so clinical from that area of the pitch, just doesn't seem to be able to perfect penalties, or b like just doesn't seem to have that kind of ability to step up in the big moments. And so I am slightly surprised. I thought when Yuri picked the ball up, I thought it would have been handed over to Ollie, and to see Asensio walk past him, pick up the ball, slot it away very, very nicely. My mind, and again, like with the own goal, it's a shame, because had the defender not put it in, Ollie is waiting there for what looked like a tap in. It just doesn't feel like he can get in the green at the moment, which is why I thought a penalty. We're already in a winning position. I felt like that was a good moment to him to try and turn that tide. But it's a tough away game at the weekend. Obviously, they had a tough time at Brentford away last season, got the goal in the end, but it's a very difficult place to go and play games, score goals. And so I wanted him to snap this streak, because it's crazy the kind of patches in. The goal he scored against Liverpool was like the best of Ollie Watkins. Gets the ball, lays it out wide, makes a great run into the box, meets the cross that he set up, plants it in the bottom corner. And it was like a flashback to the Watkins of last season. I mean, aside from that moment over the last few games, he's just not delivered a lot. And when the team was in such a good moment, when we all thought that John Duran would be the kind of weight off his shoulders, I'm just surprised to kind of see this keep rumbling on.
Well, you're right about one thing, mate. It's quite literally a coin toss. 12 penalties in his career, scored six, missed six.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think my take on penalties is if you win it, you take it. But then, like, I don't know if I feel confident with Matty Cash stepping up and taking that penalty. Although saying that, I think I'm pretty sure Cash scored in the Lille game when he had a penalty.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong to assume that Cash would miss there, but I think we had a penalty taker for 2.5 seasons in Douglas Luiz, right? Really in the time Grealish left the club, because we know Grealish took penalties. Even then, his penalty record wasn't great. It's burnt in my mind the penalty that he skies over the crossbar at Bramall Lane in the Premier League pre-COVID. But then, you look at Douglas Luiz, right? He scored so many goals for us. Was unbelievable player. When it mattered the most, he missed his penalty against Olympiacos, or it was saved. Didn't score it, right? Did Dougie miss one in Lille? I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm looking at his penalty record now, and the only penalty miss he has at Villa is that one against Olympiacos.
There we go. So quite literally when it mattered most, the guy that 42,500 people every week would put their house on scoring a penalty in the Premier League couldn't do it. There is such thing as a penalty expert, right? We've seen it. There's Mila Jedinak, right? I don't think he ever missed a penalty. Mario Balotelli, I don't think he ever missed a penalty. There's so many that I just can't name off the top of my head at the moment. Like, when they're stepping up, they're not going to miss. And I think since that Dougie miss, I've just been totally jaded. And maybe it's an English thing as well, right? Because we always lose penalty shootouts. Maybe it's there's just something about not necessarily English players, but English football that has me pretty dour on penalties. But if I'm being honest, Ollie in the form that he's in right now, as much as I love him and as much as, I come on this podcast every week and tell everyone to lay off him and tell everyone that he's going to come good and he's going to score and he just needs that one goal, and when he gets that one goal, he's going to get firing. I don't feel comfortable giving Ollie Watkins a penalty when he isn't firing at his best. That's where I'm at with that. And I think who is anybody in this squad to tell Marco Asensio, I'm going to have that? And there's this thing with penalties, right, where everybody does it. Somebody picks the ball up, stands on the spot. Keeper will give him stick. Referee will blow the whistle. They'll then pass the ball to someone else and score. So it's the mind games of it all, right? And Tielemans stepped up with the ball. And again, we've seen him do this many a time. John McGinn does it as well, but maybe it was just as I was sort of watching on a TV, I really thought in the moment, oh God, Tielemans is going to take this. And then I remembered, oh God, Tielemans has missed so many penalties for us. It feels like he's missed at least 3. I don't feel confident in anyone taking them, mate. And there was a split second where, because it was just taking so long, just staring at Asensio, I was thinking, what if he misses this? What if where do we go as a fan base if Marco Asensio misses from the penalty spot? What do we do? What do we do? We may as well just, every time we get fouled in the box, just give them a goal kick.
It's probably Rashford's probably next, isn't he?
I think so.
I'm just looking at our penalty record for this season, actually. So to give Ollie his flowers, he has taken 3 penalties. I think giving his flowers. He's taken 3, scored 2, missed 1. Asensio is now 1 for 1. John Duran was also 1 for 1. As you said, Yuri missed. So we've had 6 penalties, scored 4. Last season, Douglas Luiz took all of our penalties We had 6. He scored 5. It does feel like for a little while we've kind of been not a great like record. You have to go back quite a few seasons. Ollie took 2 in 22-23, scored 1, missed 1. So yeah, and like again, like it's can't get over kind of 50-60% from the spot, which is just nuts to me. Just nuts to me, considering like it should be kind of second nature. And you're
They're like
yeah,
free goals. They're free, it's a free goal. It's the odds are so heavily stacked in the penalty taker's favor. Like,
yeah.
I can already see the comments now. People are like, "You're ridiculous." No, like statistically, you should be scoring every penalty. Like the 0.8, 0.8. Yeah,
It's like there you go, 80% odd of the penalties go in. So statistically, like those are the numbers.
exactly. And yeah, I think maybe like how do you resolve this? Because like they're definitely all taking penalties on the training ground, whether it's like a serious like we need to get good at penalties, or like they're just doing it after a session, whatever. Like, but yeah, like I don't. I think
Oh,
they
I
should
have a theory. I have a
go on,
theory.
go on.
Because we have the best shot stopping penalty like goalkeeper in training, and they see so many of their penalties saved in training. They're just mind fucked by the time they set up to the spot. And it's like, oh my god, I've not scored one in training for 6 months. But Emmy's saving all of it. And I just get there and panic. Maybe that's it.
I think you're onto something. I was thinking about this because like especially like when Robin Olsen came on the other day, and there's this whole like second goalkeeper discourse and all this kind of stuff. And actually, I was having this conversation with my friend who's a player about like goalkeeping versus outfield players. Goalkeepers are playing a different sport. They're not playing football. Like
So
it's
true.
it's not the same thing. It really isn't. And like from everything, it comes down to like conditioning, fitness, like ability with the ball at your feet, all this kind of stuff. Like it's not the same. It's it's so different, and like mentally, how difficult it must be. Say for someone like Emi Martinez, right? He'll go into train. We see this all the time, mate. All the training clips that the Villa post, we're scoring these wonderfully, just like beautiful goals all the time. Not necessarily on Martinez, but like free flowing training. There's all these beautiful goals. You're thinking, bloody hell, Villa are amazing. Like, remember all like the comps of El Ghazi, like just being Ronaldo in training, like just scoring ridiculous
Yeah.
goals. Like it, and then you get like as a goalkeeper, you're sat there and you're conceding, you're like you're eating shit in training. You've conceded like 100 goals in a day, let's say, like between the drill, like all the different drills you're doing, whether it's with the goalkeeper coach, whether it's in the five-a-side, seven-a-side games you do, and you're expected to go out there, right? And in a very high intensity pressurized situation, 42,500 people watching, people have paid good money to be there. In Emmy's case, you're the world's number one goalkeeper. Like you've made like you've put yourself on a pedestal where anything you do can be scrutinized, and he has to go out there and keep a clean sheet. But like I've just said, day before in training, he conceded 100 goals. What does that do? Like that must mess with your head so badly. That like because like in track because the flip side to that as well is if you do have the best goalkeeper in the world and you concede no goals in training, your forwards are then like, the fuck do I have to do to score? And their confidence goes. So are we in this weird situation where like we keep conceding the first goal because Emmy's conceded loads in training and but then maybe he's saving all of Ollie's shots and that's why Ollie's not having the best time. Like I've gone on a mad rant here, mate, but it's mad. Like it's mad. It's mad.
I was about to say, you are not. This is the only Villa podcast that could turn a 3-1 win in the Champions League into an existential crisis about goalkeepers in training. I do.
Yeah.
I was kind of sat there when I was like moaning about us. What happened? I was having a full debrief on what would happen if Marco Asensio missed that penalty, and every single one of our listeners being like, he scored the penalty.
Yeah.
And you and I are like, oh, who's been a next penalty taker?
Yeah,
We
we
need to
fully
think
tricked the listeners into thinking that he missed the penalty, and it
it
cost
was
us
a
a wave.
beautifully taken. Yeah,
It
what
was
if we
so
got the
good.
penalty? And you and I are sat here like we need to get on top of this crisis. We are potentially just seeing the crisis solved. And so yeah, but I was Ollie. I just want him to score. I like I
Agreed.
do really feel for him. I do really feel for him, and that's kind of what it comes back to. I thought that the whole thing was I thought we were a little bit languid, and I thought kind of reflected on Ollie. You know, it seems like people are starting to get a little bit of frustration with him. Like Dino was kind of getting frustrated at him, like not making runs in the first half to give the defense an out ball. Emery was giving him a lot of grief, like from the touchline, but I just in a bit of a funk. And so, yeah, whilst as you say, it is a coin toss. I just think if he does step up that penalty, like slam it in the corner, run over to the away end, like you suddenly feel like, oh,
Yeah.
he's back.
Yeah.
He's back. And look, I'm super happy for Marco Asensio, but yeah, like Ollie's way for a goal. I'd say it's not. He scored against Liverpool just a few games ago. Like it's not a crisis, but yeah, we'd like. There's also the Daniel Marlin picture as well, who is kind of already in a really bizarre position at this club. And so yeah, like with a you look at Marlin for the week, I don't know, but it will be interesting to see going forward.
Yeah, I think again, it's such a short turnaround time. Ollie has a pretty good record against Brentford. You know, you mentioned the penalty he scored there earlier as well. He does seem to score against Brentford, so maybe like this is the perfect circumstance to create some goodwill for Ollie Watkins against his former club, who seem to hate him for whatever reason. And hopefully he can get a goal on the weekend. But I want to see Marlon. I want Marlon Ball. I love him. I think he's brilliant. I hope he's over his toy.
He needs a goal as well.
He does. No,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
both do, mate.
Marlon to him. Yeah,
They both do. And yeah, Asensio's penalty was bloody good. It was good. He still slipped. He did slip. So maybe we're right to have this paranoia. But I hope that was my existential crisis wasn't too much for you guys listening. And yeah, I mean, we'll be back on Saturday to talk about Brentford. Is Brentford Saturday? It's got to be Saturday, isn't it? It's Saturday, yeah.
certainly is, mate.
Days are all over the place. It's weird because we won't have had many games this month, but only like one home game as well at the same time. Four away games and one home game is quite odd. So
Yeah, we don't play a home league game until the 5th of April. Obviously, we've got the home leg of the Champions League, but yeah, it'd be a while until we see Premier League action at Villa Park.
yeah, hopefully, by the time we've reached that stage, mate, we'll be even further in the Champions League and would have made an FA Cup semi-final and all this stuff. It's all really exciting. It's all really exciting times right now, and we just have to trust the process. I think that's ultimately all we can do. And yeah, we've given ourselves a really good cushion ahead for next Tuesday. But before this Tuesday, the Saturday, another opportunity to get 3 points in the Premier League and to sort of the potential bumps in the road that we've encountered in recent times, get points on the board, make a European charge, and let's just end with good vibes. I just want good vibes, mate.
Yeah, I did. I saw it's crazy that I have to think like this, but our win and hopeful progression to the quarterfinals does a lot for our coefficient and England getting into the Champions League place, which would see that drop down to 5th. And that, like, whilst I think Champions League qualification in the league is going to be a big ask, let's just hope.
We have to win the thing, mate. We've got to win the bloody thing. Let's just go and do it.
It is we just won these big away games, like to Brentford at the weekend. If we can go and win there, and I know I said the same for Palace, but it's those wins that I just think supercharge everything,
Yeah.
and just put everything in passport. Like it's just like, but if you go and lose, just knocks the stuffing out again. So I hate to kind of sit here and be like, next game is always the biggest. I know that's a big cliche, but I think particularly when it's good team down in London on telly Saturday evening, like if you can go and get a win there, really tough stadium, just would do so much.
It would, and it's pure G Tech vibes. You only ever see the G Tech at night. This is such a Saturday night game, and yeah, let's go and do it. Come on, God, come on, Villa. Let's do it. Let's go and win some games and win some silverware. Love it, love it. Um, it feels good to talk about this. This is a big win. It's a big win. I got a text earlier from the BBC and they were like, "Oh, do you mind coming on and like previewing the game?" So like hopped on, answered a few questions. Like right, 1:30. You're on Newsbeat at 1:30. So like, I've texted my parents. I've I've got Newsbeat on while I'm doing my work. I'm like, it's no biggie. Like, you know, I've done it a few times. Like I've heard myself on Newsbeat, but I'm like, it's cool. I'll put it on. And and uh and they cut me. They cut me. They must have asked a few people. They had Hannah on from the podcast and she was great. But I told I told everyone about there's a uh I don't watch Gavin and Stacey, but
I was going to say,
yeah,
you're
Vic's on the yeah, Vic's on the telly.
to see when you're coming to work in the morning.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. Vic's on the telly. Vic wasn't even on the telly.
This is great. I would have cut you to it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. But I was yeah, so I'm glad we've won and nobody knows my preview. So I'm glad that we're doing this and this will make it because I'm editing it. There's no chance. There's no chance that I get cut from this because I am the editor. Oh God, but yeah, guys.
You're so bad. So bad.
Yeah, just about, just about. See how I'm feeling, actually, mate. See how I'm feeling. I mind you, this is just you talking to yourself. Like, you've lost the plot.
Good process about a scored penalty.
Yeah, literally, yeah, literally. Oh God. But guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Give us a score prediction for Brentford as well. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. It helps us out a lot. Up the Villa.